Hello everyone, this is Becca from Willow Hill Designs and welcome to my studio. Today I am sharing a quilt that I have finished. It's the Scrappy Quilt and there it is there, and I have decided to name it Windy Days. And I have it folded in half here on the table, on my cutting table, because it is 60 inches wide by 72 inches long. And this quilt was very, very easy to make, very simple, quick, could probably be done in a couple of days at most. So I will show you the blocks. It's comprised of 3 blocks. Here is one block. That's this. And I chose to use the 2 rectangles at each corner as a frame. This is all comprised of rectangles, no matching within the block. Here is block 2. This is 2 rectangles, 2 large squares, 2 rectangles. That's block 2. And block 3 is 2 long strips and 4 squares, and then a fatter strip in the center, wider strip. So those are the 3 blocks, and you can place them wherever you choose in the quilt. And the different blocks give a variety of color and sizes and shapes for, let's see if I can bring this up a little bit. Please excuse any shakiness. I hope I'm not making anyone dizzy. And I made a scrappy border to go all the way around the edge. This border is comprised of the leftover pieces that I had when cutting out my quilt. Let me bring this down again. And what I did was I sort of alternated pieces of narrow, wider, and sometimes 2 narrows together, just depending on what I had left over. I decided to cut them all at 3.5 inches this way. So my border is 3.5 inches wide, and then the strips are no narrower than 1.5, and then they might be 2.5 here or 3.5, depending on what I had left over. So I used really just about all of my leftovers. There's very little waste with this quilt. And before I did the scrappy border on this, I chose to put an inner border of Tilda fabric, and this was cut 1.5 inches wide, and it finishes at 1 inch. And that goes all the way around on both sides, and of course the bottom as well. Down there is the scrappy border. And I love the way I named this Windy Days, because I kind of think if the windows were open in your studio and the wind was blowing and it kind of blew everything in and just randomly fell into place, and that's kind of what it makes me think of. It's a very soft pastel quilt, and I could picture it in a white cottage, maybe draped over a chair or along the bottom of a bed. And some of the fabrics that I chose not to use in this quilt were also from the same collection. Pardon me, I hope I'm not making you dizzy. This was one of them. And it comes through very rusty orange here, but it's really a bright orange, very pretty color. And this is the same fabric here, this green. I chose not to use the orange. And another one I chose not to use in this particular quilt was this orange. Again, very pretty, but a little too bright. I chose this one instead, this green. This is another colorway. This was one of the fabrics within these 4 collections, and I chose not to use that as well. I thought that was a little bit too dark. And these are some others. Although they are pretty, I probably could have gotten away with a couple of these, but these were some that I did not use. I wanted this to have a very soft, feminine feel, very pastel looking quilt. Now this is all that I have left over from all of that cutting of 23 fat quarters. Just some of the, these are just scraps that will go in my scrap bin. Scrap fabrics, and there's a few 3.5-inch squares, some 4.5, which I will cut into these 2.5 by 4.5, and you can make the potato chip blocks out of those. So really not much waste at all with this. Trying to use up some of the fabrics that I have. I have an inordinate amount of fabric up there, fabric there, fabric down in the bottom, fabric there, and even fabric collections under here and in the cabinets as fabric as well. So I am trying to use up as much as I possibly can. Whoop. Sorry about that. I did finish the backing for the quilt, and the backing is made up of this Plum Garden fabric, and that is at the top. There are 2 rectangles across that are pieced, and then with the 2.5-inch squares that I had left over, let me move this out of the way, I pieced a band of patchwork that goes across the middle of this backing, and then more Plum Garden, two squares on the bottom of the Plum Garden fabric. And so I think that is going to be very pretty. And I'm not sure if I will quilt this quilt myself or if I will have someone do it. These fabrics that I decided not to use in the quilt, let me see, the orange and the other colors, I will use with some other collections that I have from Tilda. And that would be these. These are nice bright colors. And I think the oranges and the sort of taupes will go nice in that. And these also here go with that collection. These are little tiny sort of ditzy prints that will look very nice with these. I think this is called, oh, let's see, it says right on here, Pie in the Sky fabrics. So I think the ones that I rejected for the Windy Days quilt, I think I will put them in with those fabrics. But so this is it finished, and I will just show you quickly some of her beautiful, beautiful fabrics. Makes you think of gardens with the flowers and with the bees, little bees and all the flowers. So much really beauty. Little ducks, cottages. I think this line was called Cottages. I have this quilt turned sideways. I should be showing you this way. So yes, this is all completed, and maybe you'll want to give it a try. It is something that you can complete fairly quickly. I think it only took me probably 4 days in between working on other quilts and other projects. I'm still working on my son's quilt, my son and daughter-in-law's quilt. That's still a project in process. And I have another little quilt. I found some Hot Wheels fabric here for my grandson. So that will be a project too. And then a baby quilt coming up for the new baby that's due in September. So I just thought I would share this quickly, that it is finished. And it's a fun way to use up either your scraps, or if you have some collections that you've been saving and you'd like to group together. There is no specific pattern design. I didn't want anything like stars or squares and squares. I didn't want anything like that. I wanted a color wash of fabrics, almost sort of like a cave facet look, only much more calm, quieter colors. I just wanted it to be a color wash. So I think I've achieved that with the beautiful Tilda fabrics, and I hope you'll give it a try. And so thank you very much for joining me today, and I'm wishing you many blessings. See you in the next video. Bye for now.